All right, my friends, welcome back to All Cars. I am John, and it is time for a new reaction video to a Motorweek retro review. I had it down to two this week, and I decided I wanted to do the 99 Mercury Cougar. Now, unlike a lot of the videos I've done where I have a really personal connection with these cars, this one, I really don't. I think somewhere around 2000 or so, I knew someone that had one, had a chance to spend a little time in and around it. I've always thought they were really good looking. I'll talk about it more, but possibly the best expression of Ford's design language at the time. Always kind of lumped it in with the Probe, and I just don't think it was ever a really big seller for them, and that's kind of a shame. Of course, Mercury's gone now, so it'll be fun to look back and see what Motorweek said about it when it was brand new. Come take a trip with me.
Motorweek is made possible by Rock Auto and Tire Rack.
In the auto world, historic model names carry a lot of weight. At Ford, it's Mustang. At Chevrolet, Corvette. And at Cadillac, well, there'll probably always be a DeVille. These names are important because their familiarity gives buyers a sense of each brand's image and personality. But what if you're in charge of Ford's Mercury brand? What image there is old and ill-defined. So to put some youthful spunk in the brand, you could drop its most enduring model names altogether, or try them out on completely different types of cars. Mercury planners chose that latter approach for the all-new 1999 Cougar. But can they really teach an old cat new tricks?
All right, so I'll jump in here and let's talk about this exterior styling. Again, kind of always lumped it in with the Probe. Kind of fell in that later Mitsubishi Eclipse, front wheel drive. Really, it's a sedan with two doors, but I really like what they did here, especially up front. I did a reaction video to the Ford Focus, and I like it, but the angular headlights and the grille, it's kind of arched on the top, and it just never quite worked. But this, I think the presence of it, I think the width of it allows a really good expression of Ford's design language at the time. I've always liked the inlet underneath, how it's got that divider in the middle, but it goes out and around the sides. A nice little touch that doesn't jump out and yell at you, but just a little bit of a subtle touch. I'll say more about the rear when they show it, but just overall a good looking car.
One of those tricks being going back to the past to seek inspiration for the present, and one used successfully by other automakers seeking to rejuvenate a flagging lineup. And while you can't exactly call the new 1999 Mercury Cougar a retrospective car, it is, after all, the first front-wheel drive Cougar. The philosophy behind the car's design certainly is.
I'm going to say from the side, this has never really hit me. I mean, I see in the kind of the rear quarter panel, I kind of see a little bit of Mitsubishi Eclipse here, but I'll tell you what, you kind of squint and cover the front, and man, that looks like some later Pontiacs, like the G6. Really, really similar lines here. And I never noticed it before. Ford was just that far ahead. I also like, they've got this character line, I talk about these all the time, that runs from the front headlight all the way to the rear and kind of into the haunch back here. I kind of like that. There's something about that C-pillar back here. It's Chrysler Sebring. Looks like a Chrysler Sebring to me. But I like this character line they've got on the bottom of the door. Kind of two different planes there that come together into a triangle. I think this is a sharp looking car. I really do. I always liked it, and for a soft, somewhat sporty car, I kind of thought this was one of the better ones.
As the designers and engineers at Ford have taken the Cougar back to its 1967 roots, a snappy two-door coupe with a little more substance than the traditional pony car. and plenty of style as well, as the Contour Mystique-based Cougar is the first car sold in North America showcasing Ford's new Edge design theme. A blend of sharp creases and rounded...
Hey, did y'all see that Saturn? See that Saturn drive by? That's a sexy car right there. Yeah. Y'all know I love Saturns.
Contours. It sets the Cougar apart not only from its contemporaries in the Ford Mercury lineup, but from just about everything else on the road as well. The Cougar's feline features start up front with projector headlamps behind a pair of cat-eye bubble lenses and a lower air intake that brings to mind the sly grin of a Cheshire cat. The sleek, upswept beltline gives the Cougar a ready-to-pounce stance and merges nicely with the blistered taillights that serve as both a stylish design statement and more practically to meet the various side visibility requirements in overseas markets. Stylish and practical also describe the Cougar's interior. Its more intimate cockpit-like layout is far removed from the Mystique sedan.
I like this interior. Now, you know what I'm going to say. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you know it's dark. It's black on gray. I prefer lighter interiors, but good-looking interior. There's a period there in the 90s where I really felt Ford was kind of lost and not doing a great job on interiors. This one looks really good, and especially if you look on that opposite door with the windows, the locks, the handle, and kind of swooping around into the pull bar. It's stylish. It really is. This is a nice looking interior. Let's see more.
The cloth-covered front buckets are well cushioned and offer excellent lateral support. And available side impact airbags help protect both the chest and head. This is a first for Ford in North America and a first in the sporty coupe class. In addition to the usual manual adjustments, the driver's seat gets an adaptable lumbar support and a standard power height control. The minimalist gauge cluster features an oversized tach and speedometer, but it also includes a trip computer, another unexpected standard feature. While just to the right are the smooth rotary climate control switches that send air through the funky-looking vents.
And you know what? Let's see if I can go back just a little tiny bit right there. Look, that's really good layout. I like that. Not the tightest construction lines in the world where that HVAC area meets up with the piece of plastic holding the vents. And I'm not a fan of circular vents. I'm really not. Sometimes they look pretty good. I think this does. I think they look okay in Mercedes, but you see Chevy using it a lot, like in the Blazer and the Camaro, and I just think it's tacky. But super clear HVAC controls down there. Markings are a little bit small, but look at the size of the buttons above it.
And the fine-sounding stereo with a small detachable front panel that disables the unit, making it less appealing to thieves. In the center console, the standard 5-speed cable-operated shifter is one of the smoothest we've encountered on a domestic car. A 4-speed automatic, especially developed for front-wheel drive, is available. Behind the console, rear seat room is sport coupe tight, and the heavily sculpted seat bottoms are a challenge for those wide of hip. Headroom is, however, better than expected.
Now, let me tell you, judging by, most sports cars, right, that's pretty good legroom. I mean, that's not generous, of course, but that's not the intention of the car. But this guy can sit back here, and his knees still aren't touching. That's pretty impressive.
But hey, if it's your car, you won't be riding back here anyway. The 12.4 cubic feet of cargo space beneath the rear hatch, on the other hand, is very usable and gets even better when the 50-50 split seat backs are folded. This cat can carry a lot of baggage.
Okay, so 12 point something isn't huge for a car, cubic feet of trunk space, but the ability to lay down the rear seats and have a pretty big area back there makes this very useful if you wanted to pack some luggage and head off for the weekend. That's pretty nice. That entrance the entrance into the tunnel here, that looks a little high. You saw him banging it trying to get in underneath where the cover is, and then it's a little narrow too. I mean, it's awkward, but again, it's a sports coupe. You're supposed to take stuff like that into account.
And can move it smartly down the road too, as purring under the hood of our Cougar was Ford's proven 2.5-liter Duratec V6. Delivering 170 horsepower and 165 pound-feet of torque, the all-alloy Duratec features variable intake geometry, lightweight hollow camshafts, and an advanced E5 electronic engine management system. The standard engine is the equally reliable 2-liter Z-Tech 4-cylinder, producing 125 horsepower and 130 pound-feet of torque. Improvements to this engine have focused on structural changes that have reduced engine noise and harshness and improved durability even more.
None of those numbers really make me go, oh my gosh, how amazing is that? But, you know, in my opinion anyway, my non-mechanic opinion, those are both really solid engines, and I have a relatively high opinion of both of them. So a nice, good option in the car, and that V6 should move it along rather smartly. But you know, if you were looking at a sporty Mazda or a sporty Nissan of the time, you know, this car overall looks a little plump, I guess, just a little big, and needing a V6 that doesn't exactly wow you. I mean, that's a 6-cylinder from a family sedan is what it boils down to, but so is the chassis. So still.
Under V6 power, our Cougar leapt to 60 in 7.9 seconds and on past to the quarter mile in 15.9 seconds at 87 miles per hour. Our drivers liked its strong pull offline, the positive solid feel of the 5-speed, and great sounding exhaust.
Not earth-shattering numbers, but you know, peppy. I think you could describe it as peppy, but not sports car like.
Even more impressive was its performance through the slalom. The variable rate power-assisted rack and pinion steering was quick and precise. The McPherson strut front quadrillink rear suspension it shares with the Contour Mystique line has been tweaked with stiffer springs and stabilizer bars to provide more body control during abrupt transitions. Like heavy braking, for instance. Despite a bit of expected nosedive, the Cougar remains stable and straight in its descent from 60 and an average 116 feet.
That's pretty good. You know, we've seen some that are a little bit shorter than that, but that's another nice, solid performance.
Thanks to the 4-wheel disc and 4-channel ABS system borrowed from the Contour SVT. That hardware comes standard with the V6 and is optional on the 4-cylinder. These nearly impeccable track manners are also manifested on the highway, as the Cougar delivers up an exceptionally solid and comfortable ride for a small sport coupe. Although it was out on the open road that we noticed a slight reluctance in the steering's ability to center itself. Nevertheless, this cat is one enjoyable driver. Even more so when you realize it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to catch this cat. The manually equipped 4-cylinder is priced at $16,595, with an automatic bumping the price up to $17,410. Our choice and our tester, the V6 with the 5-speed, rings up at $18,495, with the automatic bringing the price to $19,310. But it's the solid feel and superb road manners that tops our list of hits, followed by the Cougar's affordable price and eye-catching exterior and interior styling. Misses are few. In fact, we found only one, the confining rear seat bottoms, which will eliminate a lot of backseat passengers. And on second thought, that might not be such a bad thing. Because after all, the feline breed has always been an independent beast, and the new 1999 Mercury Cougar is a car for independent-minded people. And despite its rather erratic lineage and a past tendency to put on weight, make no mistake, this kitty ain't no lap cat.
Very interesting. I got a bunch of thoughts about this one, but what a very positive review. Very positive review. You know, my problem is always with Mercury, and it's the same problem that General Motors had, right? You know, too many divisions and not enough distinction between them. Ford only had 3, and they still couldn't do it. Mercury was kind of always that lost child that just felt like it got Ford leftovers and made them a little bit glitzier. But you know, through most of my life, Mercury was lost. You'd have just warmed over Fords, but then they'd come out with something like the Marauder, right? And then they would come out with something like this. And it's a story of American brands that they come out with things that are, if they're not brilliant, they're right there, like the Oldsmobile Aurora, you know, brilliant before it came out. The Pontiac Solstice was great. The Aztec could have been great, but Mercury came out with this by being allowed to do their own thing. The problem is, a lot of times when domestic manufacturers did that, they ended up with a lineup that was just a mix, and you didn't know what it really represented. What was it? Was Mercury a slightly upscale Ford? Was it a performance division? Was it, what was it? And unfortunately, you've got a good car here that was once again shoehorned into a division that really didn't know what it was. Ford management didn't know what to do with it, and you end up with a car that I should look up the sales here. I just don't think it did very well, and that's a shame, because I'm not a huge fan of coupes, right? Not a huge fan of two doors. You end up with long doors. They're harder to get into and out of, and a lot of times I just like the styling of the four doors better. But there's between a sports car and a family sedan, there's this area in between. And when you take something like the Pontiac, let's say the G6, it's got the same engine, the same frame. You add some stuff to it to make it feel a little sportier, maybe even make the gauges red, right? Whatever it happened to be. You just get buying a two-door version of the car. That does not appeal to me at all. But right below that, you end up with, what if we do something to make it different, to make it better and more sportier? It's hard to define that. It's it when you see it, is kind of my opinion. And this Mercury Cougar falls on that latter description to me. It's not just a two-door Ford Contour. It's distinctive, and they touched the suspension and everything else to just make it overall a better car. If it was the year 2000 and I wanted a sporty coupe, I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling right now to think of something I would want more than this that's this affordable. I mean, certainly something, in the Z category would be fun, but this is everyday sportiness. The back seat is usable, the trunk is usable, the size is usable, it rides well enough to take a trip on it. It's not really a grand tourer, but it's also not a sports car, it's not a track car. I think it cuts a really good compromise, and honestly, I think it looks fantastic. If, I like to think about these little mental exercises, right? If we were to roll back in time, and for $19,000, I could buy one of these. If it had Bluetooth and a backup camera, I would absolutely do it. I think they look fantastic. I don't know. Let me know if you ever had one. Let me know if you like them. If you don't, let me know below. But this is a cool car that I think, because of the end of Mercury and because of its position, I think it's going to be largely forgotten. It's a footnote to the Cougar nameplate at Mercury. It'll be mentioned as the end of the lineage, but it's never going to be respected. Thanks for being here, guys.